Hey guys, Phyllis here with my October 5th DVD update. I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten over the last 2 weeks or so. And like I always say, if you enjoy these DVD Blu-ray updates, definitely give this video a thumbs up, share it around, let me know what you thought of the titles that I talked about in this update, any future titles I should, check out for future updates. Now the first one I got from Cinedigm is the film Static, and this is the pack that has the Blu-ray, the 3D Blu-ray, and the DVD. Now, I don't know why this movie was in 3D. I watched it in 3D and really didn't see anything 3D. But the thing is, it comes with just like, to me, in a lot of movies I can see something with the 3D. Like with this, I have to be serious. I didn't see absolutely anything. I don't know if this was shot in 3D or it was like they kind of had the idea to make it 3D later, but like nothing seemed 3D to me with this. But as a movie, I liked it. I wanted to see it because Sara Paxton was in it, from The Innkeepers, The Last House on Left remake, Shark Night 3D, a bunch of different stuff. The basic idea, though, is about this couple, and they recently lost their child, and they're pretty much very depressed and things like that. They're not very happy, and at night they end up getting a knock at the door, and it's Sara Paxton's character, and she's like screaming, saying these people are after her wearing these gas masks. Can she come in and hide out? And the husband's like, I don't know what's going on. The wife doesn't like her really coming in there. And basically, it's like kind of a home invasion type movie. That's like it's one of those kind of movies, though, where up until the last 20 minutes, it's really kind of like these people sneaking around outside, kind of things happening. But it's like until the end, it's kind of like, what's going on? Like, nothing's really happening to them. And I don't know, I didn't dislike it, but I just felt like that there was not too much with it. Like, when it comes to the last 20 minutes, though, I really loved the outcome, and I thought it was a very different type of movie. But it was kind of almost, to me, would have worked almost better as a short. It didn't, to me, almost feel like something that needed to be as long as it was, or they needed to put maybe some more clues, and there wasn't really any clues to it, and that's the only thing that I was like, there wasn't anything, you didn't get any clues to what it was going to be, the meaning to it. The next one from Cinedigm as well as Resolution. This one I really enjoyed a lot. This was about this guy that ends up going out into the middle of this Indian reservation because his friend is out there kind of squatting in this house. And he's, his friend is a drug addict, and, he goes there, he gets this weird video message from the guy. It's kind of like this art type looking film. It's kind of weird, and, he hasn't really seen his friend in a long time, and kind of wants to go and help him. So he, goes to where he is and ties him up and stages an intervention. It's basically keep him tied up in his house, until he detoxes from drugs. I think he was on heroin or something like that. But when he's at this cabin, all these peculiar things are going on. He keeps getting like weird media with like weird things on it. Like he finds an old record that has like screaming on it. He finds video that has him on it. All these kind of weird things are going on, and his friend, who's detoxing the drugs is like, "Are you doing this? Are you nuts?" He thinks he's nuts. So it's pretty much that's pretty much the gist of it. Is it like kind of all these things going on and them trying to come with a resolution of what it all means. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. Pretty well done for what it was. I definitely would recommend checking it out, but there isn't too much more to say. It's just one of those kind of movies when they're trying to figure out what's going on with it. And it was different, though. It was the first movie I've seen that it was this kind of a movie that had some different elements to it. The next one is one that I was really excited about, and it's the Inspector Gadget, the Mega Set. And this is all the seasons of Inspector Gadget. It was actually only two seasons of the show. I didn't realize that it only went on for 2 years. I, for some reason, thought that there was, years of it because they made so many episodes. There was 86 episodes, but when it came to cartoons years back, somehow they were able to make so many episodes a season. Like now, you never see that. It's usually like 12 episodes, and things like South Park, it's like 8. And a lot of shows are not like that. Even The Simpsons now, I think, is like maybe 12. But this is a show that as a kid, I watched this thing all the time. I had even had a VHS of it. And as a kid, the VHS always bothered me because for some reason it was one of those ones that was the early days of VHS where it had like a slip cover like this to it, and when you took it out, it was like a clamshell case that was red, plain red. I remember as a kid, it drove me nuts that I used to draw on the thing and I wrote Inspector Gadget on the front of it because I hated that it was plain. But this has all the episodes of it. This is just such a fun show. I really love this as a kid. Inspector Gadget is like a character who's like kind of clumsy and bumbling and all these kind of problems, and he's like a robotic kind of guy with all these kind of gizmos, drives around with his niece in the car, and he's always getting clues from the inspector, and that's where the kind of this message will self-destruct kind of came from, or at least I always thought of it was that. And, he used to always throw it in the bin with the guy and blow him up. And I don't know, it's just a really fun show. When I think of this show, I always think, though, too, of going to school. Because I remember when I was, like, in elementary school, this always played, reruns in the morning, like around, like, 7 in the morning. So I always kind of, when I heard this, I was like, oh, I'm going to school. Like, for some reason, that always is one of my biggest memories of going to school, was hearing that do-do-do-do-do, Inspector Gadget, and watching it over now, it was real deja vu. It was kind of like when you watch stuff like this that you haven't seen in so long, it kind of like takes you back to the time. You start to kind of remember weird things that you didn't remember or things that you really hadn't thought about. The next one from Warner Brothers is House of Wax 3D, and it's a really cool cover of the woman's hand coming out at you. This is one of my personal favorite Vincent Price films. Haven't seen as many films of his as I should. Definitely want to get more. I know Shout Factory has a box set of Vincent Price films coming out soon. This movie is pretty cool too. It's in Blu-ray 3D, and it's funny, I learned something in the documentary on this that I had no idea back in the 50s. They had pretty much the same kind of 3D as we do now, where you wear the clear glasses, the polarized glasses, and it comes out of the screen. Like, for some reason I thought it was the red and blue ones back then. Like, on the documentary they talk about that, how everybody sort of thought that. I had no idea back then they had that technology. So I don't know, like, when they had films like that in the 80s, like Friday the 13th, if those were red or blue. If anybody knows, for some reason I started thinking about that a lot. Because, like, I always thought that's kind of how they all were because of movies like Spy Kids 3D, which was one of the only 3D movies I saw that was like that before it became the 3D we have now. But the movie's basically about Vincent Price, who owns this wax museum, and it's doing okay. There's somebody that is looking into investing it, but the current investor, wants him to start doing, murder exhibits and things like that to try and bring in more people. And Vincent Price's character is like, well, we had this new person. He's going to be back in 3 months. He's going to talk to us about putting more money into the place, and he'll buy you out. And the guy doesn't take that, as allowing that to happen. He has a plan of burning down the place and collecting the money, from insurance. So he ends up burning down the place, and Vincent Price ends up getting caught in the fire. And there's amazing sequences in this of the wax sculptures burning down. Like, that's images that even as a kid I always remember. This is one that I've seen for years. And he ends up getting very, burned in the fire, and then people start dying off around the town. Number of months later, people start dying off, and Vincent Price's character is opening up a new exhibit, and, you're kind of wondering what's going on. And, the 3D on this is really pretty good. One of the best things in it that works the best is the ping pong gag, which they even made fun of that kind of gag in the Muppet Vision 3D. It's when you think of 3D, that was like one of the gags they always did, and the scene makes no sense in it, but it's funny. It's just like a guy going, come on into the House of Wax, or whatever he was saying. But this movie has really, really good depth. The documentary has a whole bunch of people on here, Martin Scorsese and everything, talking about how they were influenced by this film, and how, it was one of the first, when back in the 50s when the 3D started to kind of take over with bringing people into the theaters, because they kind of needed something that would bring people in because TV had started. And it's a very, very interesting documentary. The next one is The Wizard of Oz 3D. This is the 75th anniversary edition. I believe it's the 75th anniversary edition of it. And, there was a version of this, I think like 5 years ago, but this one is the newly, the version that was just turned into 3D. And the 3D in it really looks pretty good. The stuff that really pops out the most in it is the stuff when the witch is going, get you, putting her hand out the screen. and some of the stuff at the end. But they basically, when they convert a movie to 3D, they kind of bring characters to the front and, kind of work on the depth and things like that. And it really does work, and the movie looks outstanding. For a movie as old as it does, it looks better, especially when it gets to the color scenes, than some new things, which is kind of amazing. And had the original, Technicolor, which, as far as I remembered, one of the teachers was telling me that doesn't exist, or we don't own that kind of Technicolor anymore, or something like that. But, everybody knows the story of this, but it has a new documentary on here, which kind of talks all about every aspect of the film, which was the casting, the origins of it, everything that you would be interested in. Really well done. One thing I found out in it that I had no idea about was there was originally a different actor playing the Tin Man in the movie, and he ended up wearing the makeup, and it got it was aluminum paint or dust that he ended up breathing it in, ended up getting like a lung infection, was hospitalized for like months or crazy. I had no idea about that. The next one from Warner Brothers as well is The Hangover Part 3, which is the third part and the final part of the Hangover trilogy. Well, so they say. I do wonder if they might, in 10 years or a long way down the line, might make something. I can almost see some kind of a side story with Zach Galifianakis' character or Mr. Chow's character, something like that. I can almost see something like that happening. But what I liked about this one was it went and took a total different direction. Because, the second one was kind of almost like Home Alone 2, when it was the same kind of idea. It was, instead of them being in Vegas, waking up and not knowing what happened and having their friend missing, they ended up waking up in Bangkok. This one, though, was Mr. Chow in the beginning, because of what happened in the last film, was in Bangkok, arrested, ends up escaping from jail, and John Goodman's character comes to the other guys, I think it's the Wolf Pack, hopefully I'm saying it right, but he comes to them saying, he's basically going to kill the one character who ends up disappearing in every one of the movies, and says, I'm going to kill him if you don't get Mr. Chow back here. And they're also dealing with Zach Galifianakis' character, who's kind of losing it because he's not taking his medication, and his father just passed away, and it's kind of them on this adventure trying to get Mr. Chow back, and all the kind of issues that happen along the way. I thought it was a really fun road movie, and I liked, like I said, that it took a different direction, and I liked too that it went back to Vegas. The only thing that I wish was that they got Mike Tyson to be in it again. I don't know where they would have put him in it, but I really liked him in these movies. I thought he was really pretty good, and I kind of think he's kind of really pretty fun in movies. But it's got a bunch of different features on here, like a spoof thing on here about replacing Zach Galifianakis' character. It's kind of a joke on who else they would have gotten. Just a bunch of outtakes, deleted scenes, and a bunch of other featurettes on it. But if you like the Hangover films, it's definitely one I would say to check out. The next one I got from Warner Brothers as well is Robot Chicken, the complete 6th season. This is Seth Green's show that he created, and it's been going on for a while now. It's basically kind of spoof, maybe 1 minute, sometimes less, 2-minute vignette kind of spoofs of everything from things like G.I. Joe to superhero shows and movies, Children of the Corn, every kind of thing that you can think of that they spoof in it. One that I really liked on this was they did a spoof of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and they're showing the historical figures, and they're talking about Genghis Khan in this one, about how bad he actually was. This is some really funny stuff in this, and it's got a whole bunch of deleted scenes on this, and a little making of featurette, and stuff that they didn't end up making too as well. But this is just a really fun, if you like kind of spoof things, kind of like Kablam, stop motion kind of toy animation, it was one I would definitely check out, and looks really, really good. I was surprised at how good the picture is. I don't know if there's a Cartoon Network. I think there might be in HD, but it looks really, really good because, it's in Blu-ray. The next one I got from Warner Brothers as well. It's in this cool set. It's The Exorcist. It's a new edition that has the theatrical cut and the director's cut, and this is a Blu-ray. And has a new Blu-ray disc on here with a documentary with an actual priest talking about, exorcisms and things like that, and then getting back with the screenwriter and the producer. It's cool new stuff on it, and a book in here which kind of has, pictures and notes and things like that about the film, and pictures and things like that. Now, if you haven't seen the Exorcist film, though, in my opinion, it's probably one of the top, if not the best, I think really it is the best possession film about, you know, Linda Blair's character that ends up being possessed, and, you know, exorcism, you know, the exorcism that's going on and things like that. I always think, too, when I think of this, something like the spoofs. They even did a spoof movie with Linda Blair in it. But it's just a really, really well done film. The director's cut, too, I actually got to see that one in theaters when it came out. I think it was like 2000. And the one that it's known for is putting in the scene of her spider walking down the steps, which they originally couldn't accomplish back then. And I think it was like through the computers or something like that, they were able to make that scene actually work. And it was a pretty creepy scene of her walking backwards down the steps. But this is one, you know, if you love the Exorcist film and you want to have both of them, because it's the same editions of the Blu-rays that came out a couple of years back. But if you don't have them, it's definitely one to check out, and has a cool image too on the back. The next one from Sony, and this is one of my probably favorite movies of the year. This was just a really, really fun movie, and I like movies when you know, people play themselves, or like kind of spoofs of themselves. And it's a movie about the end of the world called This Is the End, and it's basically the characters on the front are the main characters: James Franco, Jonah Hill, Seth Rogen, Jay Baruchel, and Danny McBride and Craig Robinson are the main characters in the film. But it's basically about Jay Baruchel's character coming back to you know, see Seth Rogen, and they're basically going to hang out. They haven't seen each other in a long time, and end up going to James Franco's party, and every, you know, celebrity you can think of is at the party. So they got tons of cameos in this. The best cameo, in my opinion, was the Michael Cera stuff. I almost wish they would have had him be in the movie more, like with them the whole time. He was really, really funny in this. This is just such a fun movie about like the end of the world and kind of them stuck there, and, you know, locking themselves in the house, not letting anyone else in, trying to survive, and kind of all the problems that they go through along the way. And I don't know, it's just a really, really funny movie. You can tell that they were not, you know, it's one of those movies too when they were just having fun with it. They were just like kind of playing crazy versions of themselves, and it's got a whole bunch of features on here. You know, their movies always have a lot of stuff, and, you know, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg directed this as well. But it's got a gag reel, deleted scenes, linorama. So this is one I would highly recommend. It also is mastered in 4K, so it looks really, really good. The next one from Universal, and this is one I really enjoyed, and, you know, I think they're doing another one. And from what I've heard, they may do a couple of these, and I'd be interested in seeing it, because I'm guessing it's going to be different people each time, because I find it hard to imagine that it would be the same people, or I would just think it would be like different groups each time. But it's the movie The Purge, which is basically about, in the future, there's one night for, I believe 12 hours, where, you know, and you can basically kill somebody, you can do anything you want, you can rob stores during this period of time, which is one day a year. It's basically like to get all your aggression out, to try and, you know, basically by doing this, there's no violence during the year at all. So like everybody that you want dead or anything like that basically has to hide out. And, you know, Ethan Hawke's character basically makes security systems and, you know, for really wealthy people to try and, you know, keep people from getting into their house. So him and his family all lock themselves in the house. The one son ends up hearing someone outside screaming, "Let me in, I need help." Of course, the son lets him in, and it makes everybody that was after this guy come after the family, you know, and there are, you know, all the situations that are going on. I like this. The only thing that I kind of wish they would have done was during the opening credits, I would almost like to have seen more of what happens, you know, more other kind of things being purged, but it really was only about this family. And that's why I'm wondering, you know, if for like the sequels and things like that, if they're going to follow different groups, or just have it be a bunch of different people, kind of like what happens tonight. The next one from Fox is Fright Night 2, and I was really actually interested in seeing this one. It is another, you know, remake again. It doesn't connect to the last remake, and it's not like the original sequel. It's basically about these kids that go on, you know, abroad on a school thing going on, like a high school thing, to Romania. And when they get there, like, it's like the one teacher there is like, the one kid there is like noticing that there's something going on with this teacher, and like he's like spying on her, and sees that she kills this woman, and, you know, it's like she's a vampire, and there's some interesting stuff in it with like a whole bathtub of blood and like this vault of blood, like some interesting kind of things in it. The woman who plays a vampire was in, I think, the second season of Dexter, which was the British woman that he started like date. I can't remember exactly. I think he was like dating her or met her in like AA or something like that. But she played the vampire, and I thought she did good. I thought there were some interesting things in it. It was one of those movies though where it was shot in Europe, so all the actors were English, and they kept on slipping out of accents and that kind of stuff. Especially like the Evil Ed guy. I always wonder like why they don't just have it, everyone can like has their regular accents, and they don't do that, because it could have been, kids in Europe, and it's been European kids and stuff. I don't know why, if they were to change it up so much, like, I don't know. That was the only thing that was kind of weird, and the kid who played Evil Ed kind of played it like, Christopher Mintz-Plasse did, not as much like in the original, like kind of was doing that same kind of faces that he was doing, that, yeah, and all that kind of crazy stuff, but it was alright. It's not amazing. It's kind of like just like sort of a movie to watch. Just it was okay though. I kind of said I kind of liked things about it, but it is just another remake and not at all as good as the original remake. And the next one I really liked a lot, and it's Dead Before Dawn. And from what I was hearing, this is like the first Canadian 3D movie. Now this version isn't in 3D. I think at Best Buy, someone was saying they have like an exclusive 3D version. I haven't actually seen it, so I don't know if that's true or not. But it's basically about this kid who, when he was younger, saw his father die in his grandfather's kind of like black magic shop. His grandfather's played by Christopher Lloyd, and Christopher Lloyd was really good in this. He's not in it a whole lot, but he says one really memorable line. If you've seen it, one of his most known movies, he says a line from that in this, which was actually like really good. He was pretty much playing that character too, kind of like, he always kind of plays that character a lot, and I like that he does that, because it's I don't know, I like Christopher Lloyd. Like, I've especially Dennis the Menace, when he was a homeless guy in that was like one of my other favorite characters he ever did. But it's basically the kid ends up watching his grandfather's shop, because Christopher Lloyd's going to get this award for like a black magic award, for like the shop and things like that. And when he's there, there's this one thing on the shelf, which is like this skeleton head in like this trophy thing. And Christopher Lloyd's like, don't let this fall, don't touch it, or anyone, if it falls and breaks, you're all cursed. And of course, when Christopher Lloyd leaves, his friends end up coming into the shop and start screwing around with the thing. It ends up breaking, and then he's like, oh no, we're all cursed. To the friends, and they're like laughing about it. So, oh yeah, I bet then that means that if we're cursed, then the zombies, what's going to happen is anyone that we see is going to kill themselves, and then they're going to come back to life, and then they're going to try and hickey us to death. And they start saying all these crazy things, and everything that they say ends up happening. And they basically, everyone that they've come in contact with kills themselves, and then comes after them, trying to get them to kill themselves. And a whole bunch of people have cameos in it. The one guy, Kevin McDonald from Kids in the Hall, has a really funny little cameo in it, like 2 little scenes, but really, really funny in it. It was just a really cool, different zombie movie. And it was also college kids too, which is kind of cool to see one of these movies where it was like a little older, because a lot of times they're always high school, and these kids already looked old to be college kids, some of them, which I kind of thought was funny, because when it's college, it doesn't really matter. You could be any age. But this is one I would definitely highly recommend, like one of my favorite ones. I just had such a fun time with it. It was like just one of those ones that like kind of reminded me a little bit of like Idle Hands, had that kind of 90s feel to it. I really, really hope that they make, that this does well enough that they get to make a sequel, because I really thought it was a fun one. The next one from Image, and this is one I was really looking forward to seeing, and I actually really like this, and it's called The Colony, and it's got Lawrence Fishburne in it, Bill Paxton, and, they're actually in it for a pretty decent amount of time, and it's kind of like Waterworld, but in this one, it's like the future. The entire world has become frozen and iced over, so there's snow everywhere, and all the survivors are living underground, and you know me, I always love underground movies like Day of the Dead, and they're kind of just living underground, and just trying to survive, and trying to get seeds together to grow things. And it's kind of cool, like they grow tomatoes and they're like digging in it, trying to get the seeds out of it, basically just trying to live. And they end up getting a distress call from another one of the colonies, because in the future, this world, they have other colonies like theirs, and they go, Lawrence Fishburne goes to try with a couple other guys to try and find what happened, and where this distress call is coming from. Well, when they end up getting there, it ends up being, everybody's dead, and there's these crazy, like, cannibalistic people there that come back and, come after them. And, Bill Paxton plays kind of the kind of crazy guy that's like, kind of like the Captain Rhodes character, who's like not listening to orders and wants to be in, not listening to anybody else and only wants to do what he does, and doesn't want to listen to Lawrence Fishburne's character and wants to kind of take over and start killing anybody, and anybody that gets starting to get sick, they want to kill them off. And I don't know, I just really, really enjoyed this one. I thought it was, for its budget and things like that, I thought they did a really good job. The next one from Anchor Bay. And this one is essentially, and it's not like the movie, but the idea is like Troll 2. But that's not a bad thing, because I love Troll 2. But it's Nothing to Fear, and this is actually produced by Slash. He has a new production company that he's been producing horror films, and they're kind of supposed to be more like slow burn, kind of 70s style horror films. And what about this is kind of like Troll 2 is, it's about this town that wants to get this family to their town. They have their reasons for it. And they want to bring this family who's a preacher to the town. And the one, Clancy Brown, best known as, Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob, and Gus from Pet Sematary 2, and Carnival, which is my favorite thing he's ever done. He's been tons of stuff, though. He ends up coming, bringing this family to his town. And there's some interesting things, like when they get there, everyone in the town is kind of weird. They've taken all the stuff out of their moving truck and brought it into the house, and they're kind of giving everybody weird looks. And the one boy likes one of the girls, and they start talking, and everybody's kind of looking at him like this. And Clancy Brown's character's like, "Don't talk to them." It's one of those things when you're trying to figure out what's going on and what is the reason for them being brought here. I really liked it a lot. I thought, the end of it, kind of there was a little bit of not amazing CGI, but some pretty cool effects and stuff, though. I really would recommend checking out. I had a really good time watching this one. Just a creepy, like Slash was saying, old school one, but no matter what, I don't think anyone would, but don't have an urge to watch the special, the making of first. I've never seen a making. It spoils everything. Like every single plot point and twist they say. It's like years ago there would be something at the beginning that says like, "Don't watch this if you haven't seen the movie." But like I never watch it first. But I'm just thinking, like, if I did, I would have been so mad. The next one from Millennium is Stuck in Love, which I just finished watching this and really liked it. Shed quite a few tears to it. It was really, just a really well done movie. It stars Greg Kinnear and Jennifer Connelly and Lily Collins. And it's basically, Greg Kinnear is a writer, and he's, been split up with his wife, played by Jennifer Connelly, for a number of years, and he's having a hard time getting over it, and kind of spying on her and her new husband, and his, Greg Kinnear's kids are kind of dealing with their kind of relationship things as well. Like Lily Collins' character, they're all writers. It's like she's a writer as well. And, she doesn't believe in dating. She just kind of believes in one-night stands. And basically because of, like, what's going on with her father and her mother and them being divorced and things like that, she doesn't really believe in all that. And then it's about their son as well, with his relationship. It's just a really well-done relationships movie. Which is one of the really good ones I've seen in a long time, and really, really got into it. Like I said, I found a lot of it to be really sad and really worked. And I thought, haven't seen Jennifer Connelly in a movie in a while. I thought she did a really good job. But Greg Kinnear, I've always been a fan of him ever since As Good as It Gets, Stuck on You. Just would highly recommend this one. Really, really good movie about love. It was a little different. Lily Collins, too, did a really good job. The next one I got, this is one that a lot of people are saying to get it from the website, but I just got it on Amazon. I don't know what the extra stuff is, but it's already like 7 hours or 6 or 7 hours. So I'm like, well, I'm burnt out on it. I watched it all. I actually watched through this whole thing in like a night and a half, which I don't know how I got through the whole thing, just because it's so long. But I kept being like kind of interested in it. And it's the Crystal Lake Memories, the complete history of Friday the 13th, and it's basically a documentary that goes through all the movies, even the TV series. I think I skipped through like what they talked about the remake, because I wasn't that interested in that one. But it basically is like interviews with the cast. It doesn't get some people that I would like to have heard from, like Kevin Costner and Crispin Glover, but it gets a lot of people. It's interesting, too, hearing some of the people talk about all the problems that they had, and some of the people, like, really didn't get along and stuff. I guess since it's so many years later and a lot of them don't act, some of the characters, the actors who are in it, they don't really care about burning bridges. So it's like kind of interesting some of the stuff that they said about hating certain people. And I don't know, it's just I really liked it. And if you like those movies, it gets into full detail, and especially if you got the new Blu-ray of all the films, the Blu-ray set, this is like a great thing, like a companion to it. The next one I got from Image is Shiver, which is a Danielle Harris film that she's in, and I've heard about this one for a while and been really looking forward to seeing it. It's a pretty good like serial killer film. The serial killer is played by the guy who was one of the killers. I believe he was one of the killers in Wolf Creek, the Australian film. And I think because he's Australian too, he kind of has like a mixed accent in this, kind of an American mixed with all these ones you can't really pinpoint. And it actually worked. You could tell he had a hard time doing an American accent, but it worked because it kind of gave it like this, like you weren't really sure about the guy at all. And he really played the part well as a serial killer that basically liked cutting off women's heads and collecting them. I kept thinking of Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag, the other movie about, all the heads in the bag, and Joe Pesci, but this is nothing like that. But Danielle Harris is basically going to be one of the victims, and she keeps on escaping, and it's basically the guy after her, Danielle Harris the whole time, and all the kind of problems. Lisa Foles, I believe that's how you say her name, from All That, was in this film as well. I don't know, I just really like the Casper Van Dam plays the cop who's kind of trying to figure out and find the guy and keep her safe, but this guy is like real smart and is always showing up and things like that. Has a really, really good cover on it, but it's a really cool slasher film. I would definitely recommend it. The next one from Image as well is The Best of Jack Hanna, which I've always seen him on, the talk shows like David Letterman and all those kind of things when he brings animals. I had never seen his show before. I always was kind of wondering, what it was, and I never had seen any of them. It's a really pretty cool show. It's basically a documentary series with him going to different zoos, going to different, countries, Africa, all different kind of places, showing the animals and things like that. There's him going on like zoo adventures, going to Africa. Looking in the oceans, basically goes all over the place. Just a fun, I always love these kind of things. Always loved the Crocodile Hunter when it was on. Always loved those kind of travel things, especially like the ones when he went to different zoos and that kind of stuff. And the next one from Image as well is the new Three Stooges, which was the Three Stooges cartoon series, which basically opened and they only filmed 40, I think it was 40 intros. An outro, so they basically would recycle them for the cartoons, but they did the voices, the Three Stooges, for all the cartoons. The cartoons were kind of like, they made so many of them. It has 156, and it was only on for a year. So it was kind of cheesy, kind of cartoons where you could tell they like recycled things. There was something fun about them though. Like I always liked them as a kid. I used to watch this all the time. Really liked the little shorts in the beginning. It was when they were a lot, much older and had Curly Joe in it. To me though, I've always been a huge fan of the Three Stooges, and if you like the Three Stooges, it also comes with a CD with 12 sing-along songs, 12 Christmas songs from the Three Stooges. But as a kid though, even watching it again, I remember how much that song, the opening song, that doom 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 doom, that opening song had this real cheesiness to it, and it was them playing the drum, and the Three Stooges kind of, Ren and Stimpy kind of, some of the episodes had kind of some of the same aspects to it, was I kind of liked, and I think they might have even done a spoof of the opening. Something did a spoof of the opening before, but it always got stuck in my head, and it would always play like right after the episode again and again, even back when I watched them on the Good Times days. But if you like the Three Stooges though, I would definitely recommend it, and to have all of them in a set like this, because before they kind of released, I think, the shorts, but never all the cartoons and all of them together like that. The last one from Well USA is Danny Trejo in Zombie Hunter. Danny Trejo's only in it for like maybe 15 minutes or so, but it's a pretty fun zombie movie. It's basically about this new kind of drug that everyone starts using, this kind of drug, and it turns everyone into zombies, and they basically bite people, turn it into zombies, and it's I think it's like 7 months later, a number of months later, and it's basically about this guy who's living out, in his car, driving around, trying to basically just find places to hide out and stuff from the zombies, and, he's killing them along the way and things like that, and ends up, getting shot and finding, where Danny Trejo and the other people are at, and it's basically just like trying to survive. There's this weird, like, CGI zombie they had in it, though. Like, the zombies there was a lot of pretty cool makeup effects on the zombies, but there was this one like CGI one. It looked a lot like something of Resident Evil, like in the, like kind of like game-ish looking. I didn't totally understand why they did it like that, because it was just a little weird. Like it didn't really fit to it, but it's kind of done like kind of a grindhouse gritty kind of look to it. It's a pretty fun zombie film. Not like absolutely amazing, but I had a fun time with that one. But anyway though, guys, thanks again for watching, for subscribing, and I'll see you guys later.